Well, hello guys and gals, it's me, your old buddy Mr. Moose, back for another American Truck Simulator Spotlight. Today we're going to be looking at floating gears. Now, you've probably heard it mentioned that in American Truck Sim, you can float gears, but you may not know what it is, and maybe not know how to do it. Today, that's what we're going to take a look at. Now, I did mention this a little bit in my G27 setup video, but today we're going to go a little more in depth. So what is floating gears? For years, truck drivers have been able to shift gears while going down the road without using the clutch. If you've driven a car and a manual transmission most of your life, you've always shifted with your clutch, but you might have done something called power shifting, or some people refer to it as RPM matching. And it's the basic same thing. Truck drivers have been, saving wear and tear on their truck by doing a little bit of gear floating for years. And the technique in real life is pretty simple. You basically let off the gas a little bit, slide the gear shift into neutral, and then you put a little light pressure on your next gear until you feel the gears match up, and you can do that with a nice touch. You'll feel it slide into place, and then you just move it right on in and accelerate. It's something that is done by touch. Unfortunately, in the gaming community, we're not able to replicate that touch with our current gearboxes. There's no force feedback for a gearbox, right? But SCS has recreated the ability to float gears in the game with a simple game mechanic. It took me a little bit of time to figure out what it is, but it's pretty simple. And today I'm going to cover that for you. Now, to float gears, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to set your game up properly so you'll have the ability to do that. And we're going to have to go into controls, and we're going to come down to controls again, and we'll go down to our 8 shifter, and we want to go to 8 shifter setup. Now, the first thing you have is your shift layout. If you're not familiar with the differences in the two, basically if you played ETS or are familiar with Truck Sim, maybe you've been playing with Range Splitter or Range Splitter, you'll notice that your gears go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so forth. So if you're in an 18-speed transmission, your gears go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right? You have 16 gears in it. Forward gears, and then you have some reverse gears. But anyways, there's also the Eaton-Fuller design. And in the Eaton-Fuller, it's a little bit different. The Eaton-Fuller 18-speed, which is one of the most common transmissions in trucking, uses a different design. It lists the gears as 1 low, 1 high, 2 low, 2 high, 3 low, 3 high, 4 low, 4 high, 5, 6, 7, 8 low and high. So you get the same combination to get you 16 forward gears. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be demonstrating with an Eaton-Fuller 18-speed transmission. Basically, what you want to keep in mind is when I have a first gear low and high, that's basically on another transmission, that's gears 1 and 2. Second gear low and high is gears 3 and 4. With that in mind, you can select whichever transmission you want to use. I prefer the Eaton-Fuller. The main behavior that you need to know about is right here under Shift Layout Behavior. If you have it in simple, it's just going to shift gears like you normally do, and you're not going to be able to float. You're also not going to run into any problems of gear grinding or any of that. If you switch into Advanced mode, however, now you have the ability to float gears. You're also going to have some troubles with gear grinding, missing gears, and it's going to be a little more complicated, but once you master it, it's a lot of fun for the game, and it gives you that little bit more of immersion into the game. The other thing you have to make sure you have set up is you have to have Shift Toggle 1 and Shift Toggle 2 set up so that you can use your range and your splitter. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump into our truck and actually see what we're going to do. Now, again, I told you I'm using the Eaton-Fuller 18-speed transmission, so I'm going to move over here so you can see my GPS. And if you notice next to the miles per hour, there's a little shift diagram and the letter N, that is neutral. And you'll see that on when I put my transmission into gear, I'm at 5L. That is 5 low. When I hit my splitter button, I go into 5 high. And then if I hit it again, I go back into 5 low. For demonstration purposes, I want to jump down to first gear. For first gear, I have first gear low, first gear high. If you're not using the Eaton Fuller, if you're using the standard transmission, that would be 1 and 2. Okay? It's important you understand that because I'm going to be telling you a couple of terms in here that you'll need to understand how they're relating to. I'm going to use 2 terms. I'm going to use one called full step, and the second one I'm going to call a half step. For a full step would be the equivalent of me shifting 2 gears at one time. So if you're on a standard transmission, that would be going from first gear to third gear, which would be me moving the gear shifter from the first gear position through neutral and down into third gear. Now on my Eaton Fuller, that's going to show up as going from 1 to 2. A half step is the equivalent of me going from gear 1 to 2 on a standard transmission or from low to high on an Eaton Fuller. So again, the difference is a full step is when I actually move the gear rein or the gear absolutely from one gear to the next gear using the gear shifter all the way through. A half step is when I involve my splitter button and I'm actually going from one gear to the immediate next gear. So from first gear to second gear, or if I was going to go on a standard transmission from second gear to third gear, I would go with my splitter and I would move the gear shifter down to third gear. Eaton Fuller, that's 1 high to 2 low. That's a half of a step because I'm only moving 1 gear, I'm not moving 2. I hope that makes sense to you because it's key to figuring out how to do the floating. The key to floating the gears is, once you understand how many gears you're moving, is the RPMs. When you make a full step, jumping 2 gears at a time, you need to let your RPMs drop 500 RPMs. So if we're at 2000 RPMs on the tachometer, when I come out of my gear and I drop down to my next gear, I need to let my RPMs fall 500 before I shift in. If I'm moving a half step, I'm going from 1 high to 2 low, I only let my RPMs fall 250. Once you understand that, you can float gears. So again, a full jump is 500 RPMs, a half a jump is only, or a half step is only 250 RPMs. I do hope that makes sense to you. So let's start up and we'll actually do a little driving around and I'll demonstrate to you how this actually works. So we're just going to go for a little drive around Reno here and I'll see if I can get things up to speed and then we'll actually start doing our shifts. Now the one thing about shifting with the advanced transmission is you're going to grind the gears. You're going to hear them pop out and they're going to make the little grinding sound, and that's okay. You'll get used to it and eventually you'll figure all of it out. Alright, so let's pull out here, get across the road here. Alright, so I'm up around 2100 RPMs. I'm going to make a full jump. I'm going to go and move the lever all the way into second, and to do that I just let off the gas, move to neutral, and then when I see my RPMs get down to around 1600, I'm going to go ahead and shift gears. You heard a little bit of grind because I shifted just a little bit too early. Now I'm going to confess, I'm not the best at this yet. I'm still learning exactly how to get it to work. So I'm going to grind gears in this video. Forgive me. Alright, so once again, up to 2000, pull out, and then I pop back in at 1500. And that's the basics, and I just ran a red light. That's the basics of floating the gear. If you can do that, you can do it over and over and over and over again. Now, it's going to take some time to master it. I haven't spent enough time doing it in game. But I'm getting better and better at it every time I try it. So this time we're going to run up and I'll get going. And again, I went in a little bit early, so you heard a little bit of gear grind there. Alright, so that was a full jump. Now I'm going to jump up to 5th gear. And again, I'm a little bit early, so you hear a little bit of gear grind on it. And again, the more we do this, the more we'll get. Now a half step, if you're going from 5 low to 5 high, all you have to do is hit your splitter button, let off the accelerator, and it makes the shift for you. You never have to touch the clutch. Now if I want to go from 5 high to 6 low, again, this is a half step, so I'm only going to let the engine drop 250 RPMs. So I'm going to shift halfway between 1500 and 2000. I let off, and I'm in. So that's the basics of how you float gears in this game. Now if you need to downshift, it's the exact opposite as upshifting. You have to go up 500 RPMs to make a full jump, which is to go from 6 low to 5 low. If I need to go from 6 low to 5 high, it's only 250 RPMs. Now I have to be honest with you, I haven't really mastered jumping a half a step down for downshifting. I've only been able to really do downshifting a full step because it gives me more distance to travel, but it's still possible. There, that was a nice, just a little bit of a burp from the change when I shifted that time into 4 low. So again, we're going to come up to 5, a little bit earlier on my shift, a little bit of gear grind, but if you're watching the tachometer, you're noticing that I'm letting it fall about 500 RPMs for each shift. Alright, another full shift here. Oh, I missed it. I missed it that time. Well, I get it a lot, but I don't get it perfect each and every time. But I think you guys are getting the gist. We'll go one more time with this and see if we can get it one more try, just to demonstrate it. I'll get through 1st gear and then I'll start shifting again. If I miss it, I just give it a little gas to float the RPMs up and get it back in. Alright, well, I can't get much run going here in Reno, but there's the basics of it for you. Now, what we'll do is we'll get up on the interstate and I'll wind it out and we'll do a couple of more jumps. Alright guys, so we're up on the interstate now, and I'm going to make a half a shift from 5 low to 5 high, and all I did was hit my splitter button and let off the gas a little bit. Now I'm going to shift from 5 high down to 6 low. Again, I'm going to hit the splitter button. I'm going to let my RPMs drop 250 RPMs, and I'll make my shift. So I'm a little bit high now, so I'm just going to shift it right under 2000 RPMs. So here we go. Little bit of a grind there, but I still got it. Alright, now I'm going to take my half step from 6 low to 6 high. I'm going to do by just hitting my splitter button and letting off the accelerator. Alright, and now I'm up into 6th gear. And I'm on 6 high. Now I want to go to 7 low. And I'll do that by falling 250 RPMs. So I press my splitter button, let off the accelerator, and I shift in. So there it is. Now, again, upshifting, a little bit different. If I want to go from 7 low to 6 low, basically what I have to do is let off the, I have to raise my RPMs up 500 RPMs in order to make that happen. So I'm at 1500 RPMs. I'm going to pull the shifter out, raise up my RPMs, and downshift into 6 low. So let's go ahead and do that now. I pull out, raise up my RPMs, and shift in. That wasn't really smooth, but that's the basis of it. Alright, I'm going to make a full jump back up to 7 low, and to do that I'm just going to let it fall 500 RPMs and shift into 7. So there we are, 7 low, and let's downshift once again back into 6 low, and we'll do the same thing. We'll let off the accelerator, raise our RPMs up 500 RPMs, and shift into 6 low. Alright, so off the accelerator, shift out, raise RPMs. Oops, I missed it. There it is. Again, I'm not real good at downshifting yet, but you see that now you know what the mechanics are. Once you understand the mechanics of it, you can make it work for yourself simply by giving it a little practice. So I hope you guys have found this useful. And again, I know I've messed up all the upshifting stuff. And again, it takes time and practice. I think we'll all get really good at it once we understand the mechanics and know how to do it. So again, I hope you found the video useful. Thanks for watching, guys. And until next time, I'm Mr. Moose. Keep on trucking.